Welcome. In this video, I want to take a look at working with web page files. So when we talk about files and file names in HTML, we are looking at HTML files, we're looking at image files. So whenever we have a picture or an image on a web page, that's a separate file. So we work with JPEG files, we work with PNG files. Those are the two primarily that we'll work with. GIF files is another file that is supported on the web. We'll get to all that when we do um, our chapter on images, but it's important to understand how to save files, how to look at file names, what type of file names and the syntax that we want to use. It's extremely important. So the first thing I want to tell you, whenever we look at um, saving files, all of our file names should be lowercase. Okay? Keep them simple. In Blackboard, on the left-hand side, there is a link called Documents, and in Documents you will find some file naming documents that talk about what type of syntax and structure and standards there are. For our purposes, I really strongly encourage you to keep your file names simple. I want them all to be lowercase with no spaces, and I would like them to be 8 characters or less. That includes HTML file names, CSS file names, image file names, folder names, all of those things. Okay? So, as an example, this is the web page that I created in the last video, index.html. It's an HTML page. Okay? Now, when we look at a folder structure, this is on my desktop, right? So I've got an HTML folder, and just for the sake of sticking to our conventions, I'm going to, let me rename this folder HTML lowercase. So I'm just going to do this. It's all lowercase. Open it back up in VS Code. So this HTML folder for this project is my root directory. Okay, so when I double click it, this is the root. Okay, the root folder is the main highest level folder. So when we're talking about a root folder or root directory, a directory and a folder are basically the same. We're talking about the main folder or directory location for that website. Okay? Things that go in the root, your home page, all of your HTML files for our purposes will go in the root directory, so the main folder. Okay? We will have some subfolders created in the root. So one subfolder we will have will be a folder for our images, and that will be named IMG, all lowercase. Okay? So all of our image files will be stored in the IMG folder in the root directory. Another folder that we will have, especially starting in week, I think 5, is a CSS folder. Again, all lowercase. And in that folder will be all of our CSS files. Okay? So this is what your basic structure is going to look like most of the time. You'll have an index file, which we'll talk about in a second, any other HTML files that you have, a CSS folder, and an IMG folder. Okay, so I didn't mean to do that. Let me get rid of that. So I'm in VS Code right now, right? So what I want to do is I'm going to create a new file. I'm still working in that same folder. So I'm going to do new file, and I'm going to do save as. And let's say that the assignment calls for an about us page. So I'm going to save it as about.html, all lowercase, simple, no spaces, no dashes, no camel casing. Keep it simple. And I'm going to click Save. Okay, now when I look at my structure, you can see the About page is now in the root directory with the index page. This is where I want all of your HTML files to reside, in the root directory for that assignment or that project. Okay. Now, when we look at the overall structure, the way I would do it is I would have, and you should save all of these probably on a USB drive and make sure that you have those backed up just in case something bad happens. Blackboard goes down or something happens, you don't have to redo assignments. Okay, so on my USB drive I would have a folder called HTML or HTML class, whatever you want to call it, and then inside that folder what I would do is I would do assignment 1, assignment 2, and so on. Okay, and then in each of those you'll have your structure. Okay, so this, when I go into assignment 1, there is assignment 1. Same with assignment 2, assignment 3, assignment 4. Now, every home page that you create for every assignment will be named index.html. So you can't put everything in one big giant folder. They have to be in separate folders because index.html is going to be the same for each assignment. If you put those all into one folder, they're just going to overwrite each other. Okay, so that's why assignment 1, assignment 2, week 1, week 2, however you want to do it, however it makes sense to you. Okay, now if I have a image name or an image saved, for example, I'm going to go to my solutions here. Now when I look at this, minus the Word document, there's my home page, there's my second page for this assignment. When I go into my image folder, there are my images. All lowercase, simple names, they're all JPEG files. Keep it simple, okay? It's true with no matter which page I go into, okay? All simple, very simple. And the reason for that is when you're writing your code and your links, it's much easier to write code for simple file names than it is to have these big long file names where you risk a typo and then your code doesn't work. So that's really the purpose for doing the file names the way that I am saying. Okay, make sure you save all of your assignments until the end of the semester, until you get your final grade. It's important to do that because, like I said, if the website goes down, if Blackboard goes down, or if I make a mistake and I didn't grade something, it happens. You know, I'm human just like you guys. So keep everything until the end and keep them organized the way that I'm showing you here. Okay, now the next thing is, let's say that I've created this page, right? I've saved it, I've got it just like this. Now I want to edit it. I'm not done working on it, and I want to edit it. Now you can't just come in and double click on an HTML file, because what's going to happen is it's going to open in a web browser, and there's no content on here because we didn't put any content on there yet. It's an HTML file, so it's going to open in Chrome in my case. So what you need to do is, instead of double clicking on the file, you need to go back into VS Code and I'm just going to open this folder because I moved some things. You need to go back into VS Code and either click on it here or go File, Open Folder, and open the folder that you're working on like I just did. Okay, when you open a folder, you'll see all the files and folders that are available to you inside that folder. So I just click on index.html or about.html, and there it is. Okay, and I can work on it at that point. So that's how you're going to edit existing web pages. Now, as I work on a web page, and this is an example that I did for later on, but I've got all this code written. I've got 3 HTML files saved: links.html, index.html, and about.html. Now we want to test these in the browser window before we submit them as an assignment. So what I like to do is I go to my folder and I just double click on my page and I open it in the web browser, and then I can test everything. Okay, and then I just keep it open, and as I change my code, I just go back into the browser window and hit refresh to see any changes that I've done. I like to test my web page as I add my HTML code. So when I add an element or 2 or 3, I save it, I open it in the web browser, look at it, make sure it's what I thought it would be, and then I keep working in the code, save it, open it in the web browser, refresh, and just keep testing it. Once you have an assignment completely created and you think it's good, do a final test in the web browser, test all your links, make sure everything's showing up, and then save it and submit it in Blackboard. All right, that is the video for working with files in HTML. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me, kretz@fetc.edu. Thank you.